Hello, and welcome to Founder Freedom, From Hustler to CEO, the podcast built for e-commerce entrepreneurs and small business owners who are ready to work less, earn more, and scale smarter. I'm your host, Stephen Palmer, and today we're winding back time with a founder keeping the magic of mechanical clocks alive. Meet Talitha Grether, co-owner of Grandfather's Clock Gallery and Clinic in Tulsa, where heirloom restoration meets whimsical wonder. Let's jump in with Talitha. Welcome, Talitha.
Thank you, Stephen.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Enjoying the little change in weather over here.
Awesome. So can you tell us a little bit about the Grandfather Clock Gallery and Clinic, about the value proposition? So what are you bringing to the world?
Sure, yes. Well, it's something that a lot of people haven't heard of, clock restoration repair. It's a very rare trade. So we are actually inundated with clocks that we do restore for families who have either inherited them or sometimes picked them up, found them or inherited them. And we just make them tick for the next generation.
Nice. So I know this is a tricky question, but what inspired you to create the brand? How did you come into this brand? I know you have a good story.
Sure. Well, and it isn't it's almost funny to me calling it a brand because it is a rare trade. But my husband and I actually met working on clocks together for the previous owners. The business was founded in 1987, and it was, I guess, the long and the short of it is that we both really love clockwork mechanisms of all kinds, but especially and particularly clocks. And what we love is what we do, and it's getting these antique mechanisms working. And the reason, I think your question was, what did we see that needed to be?
Yeah, what inspires you to run this brand, basically?
Yeah. Well, honestly, it was very sad to see that there was no one to restore clocks. And it made each of us wonder, well, how would you even succeed in something where there's nobody to teach you how to do it? There's no, I can't go to some kind of function where people get up and talk about like, oh, how to succeed in the field of restoring an antique clock, because there just are not people that do it. So the reason why we do it is because nobody does it. And it's always we're always trying new things too. Just kind of teach ourselves how to keep this going.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really noble and forthright for sure. So in terms of the problems that Grandfather Clock Gallery and Clinic solve, so besides the fact that there's not a lot of people doing the restoration, what are some of the other gaps that you think that you fill problem-wise for the clock owners?
Yeah. Well, I guess they're just, so we work on clocks from, I mean, people bring us clocks from Arkansas, Oklahoma City, Kansas. We had a few shipped to us from Honolulu a few weeks ago. So the gap, it's almost more of a question of how can we fill the gap, because there's such a big one. Yeah, it is hard to answer that question.
Sure.
That's a question I guess I ask myself every day is how do we fill this gap? We have there's just five of us, and we restore antique clocks, and each clock we work on could take 3 hours or it could take weeks of on and off work, just solving sometimes a 200-year-old mystery. What's missing in this clock, or what does it need? But as long as we stay passionate about what we do and we're clever and patient, we can continue to keep restoring clocks. I guess there's never been a mechanical clock that we couldn't repair. but some of them
Yeah,
have taken years.
that's cool. So I'm just thinking about, so you have an old trade, and I know some other conversations that we've had previously. So I'm kind of reframe this next question. So in thinking about your business as an online business now, because you can reach globally, right? Or at least nationally from your perspective so far. So what was the existing way of doing business in your industry that was broken that you're now fulfilling? So like,
Oh yeah,
how do you get customers?
that's a good question. When we took over the business and rebranded in 2017, the previous owners were very old-fashioned, and there wasn't a website, and they firmly believed that you should only sell clocks. They liked being a one-thing store and repair shop. So that is something that we changed right away, was accepting all kinds of clockwork. We've worked on antique music boxes and tin toys and things like that, in addition to clocks. A Victrola record player. We mostly do focus on clock restorations, but we also do sell all kinds of different high-end heirlooms and high-quality toys and things like that.
Cool. So that's very different. So in the past, people used to just walk in and go shopping for items, and now you're restoring these family heirlooms and giving them, extending their lives, basically.
Right, and offering sales in new items and antique items, both in the store and online.
So how would you say that your company solves that problem of the restoration piece better than what you see out there as existing alternatives, which are obviously nothing? Or what kind of competitors do you see out there, if any?
That's a good question. So we do see a lot of, everyone's got an Uncle Joe that thinks he can fix anything. Sometimes he can. There are even a few places around this area that will work on clocks, and I have to be careful because there's so few of us, and I'm not out to hurt anybody's business or talk negatively about anyone. There's so few of us that it'd be very easy to look up any other what would be called a competitor, but I would almost say we don't have a competitor because nobody does exactly what we do. So there's a lot of people who will clean a clock mechanism and put oil on it, and their version of cleaning it may be partially disassembling it. Most often it's dunking the entire movement into some kind of fume solution, putting oil on it, and if it runs, charging the customer a minimal amount of money for that quick job. We do not consider that an actual repair or really even maintenance. That's not proper. That's not a proper cleaning, and that's not a proper service on a clock, and it's certainly not a restoration. But they use the same abbreviations that we do. They'll say COA on the ticket, which is clean, oil, and adjust. But the COA is completely disassembling it and rebuilding it, and to somebody else it might be using Q-tips and alcohol to kind of try to clean it and oil it and fix it. So again, kind of going back to, there are people who work on clocks, and I guess what we do is we do the whole thing, and we really believe in, we give a 2-year guarantee. We don't expect to see the clock again except for 5-year maintenance, which is oiling the mechanism, and we don't expect it to need anything major for anything from 30 to 70 years. So it really is the next generation that would need to do any work, whereas other shops would expect the clock to come back every year. So for an additional adjustment or repair, or I've unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there who will take out the mechanism and put a battery movement in, which we absolutely, we do not do that. So that's not, again, that's not a repair. So that's not, it doesn't really count for what we do. But it is what I guess when you get into kind of what maybe a misconception would be, which will be another thing that we discuss probably down the road, but people think that if their clock isn't working, they can have somebody do something. Maybe they're at the counter, maybe keep it overnight, and their clock will be working the next day. But if you bring me 100-year-old clock, or even a clock you bought in the 90s, and it's been running, it's been ticking, it's been working nonstop night and day for you, you wind it up
Mm-hmm.
week, it's telling the time, it's dependable, you've got metal on metal for years, it's going to need more than that. And a lot of shops I shouldn't even say a lot of shops, because again, there's not many people who even attempt to work on clocks, but plenty of people would try to get a clock running. And when I say that, they try to get the gears spinning again, doing the minimal work. But we believe when a clock stops, you want to do everything it needs for it to be then running dependably as long as it previously did before it needs
Right.
anything else.
It's interesting to me because the little bit of knowledge that I do have about these timepieces is that the interesting part is that they don't require any electricity. They just require the specific care, how you described, as far as tuning and repairing, and they keep time perfectly on their own.
Yeah, if they're adjusted correctly, you can safely wind them. You can set your other
Right.
clocks to them.
Right.
And they just keep running.
So that's kind of like what you said, like that's like the biggest misconception. So if I'm like a new visitor to your website or whatever, the biggest misconception might be, that you just fix clocks, but people don't really understand what it takes to fix an heirloom type of clock with a working mechanism.
Yeah. There's more mystery to it than there should be, in that only because not many people get to even see that part of their clock.
Right. So can you share a success story of a customer situation, or a bigger win, maybe from like, your mission as a business? What do you got?
That's actually pretty easy. This is a story. This could be told 100 different ways, but I'll just give you a specific one. A week or two ago, I vaguely remembered this lady. She had brought a clock into us about 6 months ago. There's a bit of a backlog, because there's only a few of us and we do the whole thing. So it takes a few months once you bring it in. And she had let me know this was my dad's clock. He loved this thing. I wasn't allowed to touch it, but I hated it. It made so much noise. He's going now. And now I love it, but it doesn't work. And it's been so long since I heard it working. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, well, we'll get it working for you. I didn't even really fully remember that story till she came back to pick it up. And she said, I hated this thing, but he's gone. It was his favorite clock. And I said, oh, I remember you. And I said, okay, and you're the one that like wanted to like stop it and sneak around, like try and stop the clock, and you'd get in trouble. You were allowed to touch it. So I was showing her how to wind it up, and I moved the hands to make it strike. And she just turned around and she went like this. And she turned and she was crying. And she said, it's like hearing my dad's voice again. Is that weird? Cool. And I said, that's not weird, because it's like smells bring back memories. Sounds do too. And she heard that clock going off every half hour growing up in her dad's house. And she hadn't heard it since he passed. And hearing that clock again brought back so many memories for her. Yeah. She got to take it home and carry on that tradition. And I love stories like that, because, and we get a lot of that. They don't always cry, but they get excited. And I have older people come in and say, well, when I'm gone, the kids are probably just going to throw this thing away. They hate it. And I let them know, do you know how many adult children come in saying, I hated this thing, but all I want is to get this clock working, because I remember it going on. I had to stare at it when I was in timeout. They give these stories. Everyone's got a story. And it's often with the ones my age in their 30s, it's often, I hated this thing. And now dad's gone or mom's gone, and I just want it to work again. Sometimes they have their kids with them too. So you just know that it's just going to keep traveling down through the family.
I dislike it, but it brings me comfort. Please bring it back.
No, it's the old story of the thing you hate becoming the thing that you love and can't live without.
Cool. That's good stuff. So, as far as trends in your industry, do you see anything that might be shaping or reshaping the future of these timepieces that you repair?
I will say that no matter how trends come and go, because we had the minimalists just about 10, 15 years ago was kind of phasing out. We've got the maximalists now. But everybody, they all come in, and it doesn't really change the fact. Well, that's the thing about clocks and time. Time keeps going no matter what changes. And that's why clocks are such a beautifully consistent thing, I think, in a lot of our lives. Seasons change, but time doesn't. People always need to know what time it is, and no matter how you change your home, everybody has their one piece that expresses who they are, even minimalists.
Yeah, for sure.
Only one thing, and it's usually their clock, and it can be a grandfather clock or a wall clock or a mantle clock. So I think that embracing change is important for people like us who work in a rare trade that goes back hundreds of years, to stare at things that are hundreds of years old. We're not afraid of change because, I mean, time is a construct of man, and it's something that everybody experiences, and it's something that isn't going away. So I'm not really concerned that it is a little bit of a hard question to answer, but I will just I'll try to wrap up by saying that we try to make sure that there's something for everybody, whether it's an antique or a new clock in our store. No matter what the current trend is, people will find a clock that speaks to them, and we aren't afraid to embrace change.
Nice. That's a great trait to have as a business owner, right? You have to embrace change and be ready to pivot at any moment, because we're warriors.
That's right.
So, thinking about other listeners here that are also entrepreneurs and business owners, what little piece of advice could you give them to stay ahead of the curve in today's marketplace?
Well, I mean, this kind of thing. I love a business podcast. As long as people are staying open-minded, which, I mean, it's hard for me. I'm really the story of the person who just won't change. But I, at least in my habits at home, but when it comes to business, I try to embrace change and be willing to learn from other people. It almost doesn't matter what the business is, just to be willing to listen, be a part of a business group, whatever city that you're in, find other business professionals. And I don't know, community is the only way, I think, to stay ahead of any curve, because people talk. They talk about what they're going through and what problems that they're running into, and they're people that you can talk to as well. I don't have something specific that will help somebody, because I work on clocks, and the only thing that has been helpful for me has been to be willing to learn and to keep up with other individuals that own businesses, and listening to business podcasts, and trying to get my hands on books that can tell me a little bit more about how to think than what to think, I guess.
Yeah, good stuff. Thank you. So what's next for your company? What's going on in your world? What are you working on?
Well, right now, I guess we're getting ready for Christmas. So we have a lot of music boxes and tin toys and things coming from Germany. And we have a lot of nutcrackers and things on the way. We try to have a bigger selection in our store every year. And we have a lot of really fun events coming up too. We have our big fall party coming up. And then just as far as business changes, I guess we're installing some things in our repair shop that will make us more efficient with clock repair. We're getting a cool lathe soon and something called a Dremel box that will keep, if we ever have to Dremel, we don't have to use the vacuum system that we were using. It'll make things a little easier.
Nice.
So if any of that is interesting, but I find it fascinating. This is the fun
It's probably
stuff.
interesting. Yeah, it's interesting for crafters, I'm sure. No, that's good stuff. So what's the best way for our listeners to get a little bit more involved in what you're doing? How can they connect with you? Are you doing socials or your website?
Hop on our website, subscribe to our email. Our team is hilarious. We make silly little videos and informative videos and silly videos, whatever they're kind of feeling like, and that gets posted to our Instagram and our Facebook every week. But we also send out emails that have information about clocks and also what's new and what's going on in our store. So feel free to sign up and also check out our website. It's you can buy things online too.
Nice. Okay, well, thank you, Talitha. That's a wrap here on Founder Freedom. A big thanks to you and for showing how love, legacy, and a little bit of ticking magic can turn a trade into a calling. From romantic beginnings of running a clock gallery, Talitha's story is a timeless reminder of why small business matters. Check out tulsaclocks.com and rediscover the joy of craftsmanship in your favorite timepieces. If you like what you heard here, subscribe and share this episode. Leave us a review to help other founders find their path to freedom. Until next time, keep creating, keep scaling, and never lose your style.